Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we have some cards to look at for the season of December. So new datamine stuff came out, and now we have an idea of what December is going to be looking like a bit. As always, this is datamine information, so some things are subject to change, and we're actually going to see two changes that have been made to previously datamine cards that are going to be releasing in the month of November. So we can see the season pass here is going to be Sebastian Shaw, and alongside him for our season pass variants, we're going to have some Hellfire Gala variants of Professor X and White Queen. Now, taking a look at the cards here, the two cards that have been modified from the last datamine that will be releasing in November are Martyr and Gladiator. Martyr was originally datamined as a 2/6 with the same effect of, at the end of the game, moves to a location that loses you the game if possible, and Gladiator was slightly adjusted from being a 3/8 to a 3/7 with the same effect of add a card from your opponent's deck to their side of the location. If it has less power, destroy it. This is very scary to me because if Gladiator even releases as a 3/7 as we're seeing here, I think this card is going to be busted as hell. And you know, the closer we get to a release, the more likely the cards aren't going to change. We'll see though. There's still time for it to change, but yeah, those are our two November cards that have been changed since the last datamine. They'll be releasing next month. But we got a bunch of cards that are going to be releasing in December. And honestly, my initial impression of the December cards is that a lot of these aren't that great. But I'm a little happy about that because I think October and November have some really powerful cards. So it makes it feel a little bit less bad to be using a lot of Spotlight Caches or tokens in this month or next month, if you know December's a month where you might be able to save a bit better on your resources because you won't need all the cards. So, Season Pass card Sebastian Shaw is a 3/3 that reads, when this card permanently gains power, gain +2 more power, wherever this is. So, very neat effect. I actually like the design of this card quite a bit. I don't think it's going to be that great in the context of the current meta. I do think some people are going to try out some cards that have previously fallen by the wayside, and things like Okoye and Nakia and a Surfer deck. Even Surfer buffs us up by 2, and then it gets another 2 power. So even if you're just buffing this up with Silver Surfer, it becomes a 3/7. So not too bad. I don't think it's going to be able to compete with the stuff we're seeing right now. However, obviously, there's a long time between now and when this card releases, so the game could change in ways to make this card better, or the card itself can change to make it better. So, pretty alright Season Pass card in my opinion. It's no Loki or Elsa, but probably every Season Pass card shouldn't be a Loki or an Elsa. Some people are probably going to be confused by the wording. Why is it saying permanently gain power? This just has to do with locations that temporarily boost power, things that give it that +1 or +5 or whatever. Locations like that will not be boosting up this card, but locations that say add power to your hand, or Shuri's Lab, which gives it a permanent power boost, things like that should boost up this card. Also worth mentioning, I believe all these cards are currently datamined at Series 5. However, since it is 2 months out from release, that's another thing that can change before release. But I believe as of right now, these are all Series 5 cards. Next up, we have Havoc. Havoc is a 2-cost 1 power that reads, after each turn, you lose 1 max energy and this gains 3 power. Better Sunspot, right? No. This card is really, really bad. I think this is probably the worst card of the month. And honestly, I think the only real application of this card is maybe you give it away to your opponent and then limit them on the amount of energy they can play for the rest of the game. This could actually potentially be a combo with the next card we have here, Celine. Celine is a 1-cost -1 power that reads, on reveal, afflict the lowest power card in each player's hand with -3 power. I actually think this is probably the best card of the month. And the reason for that, even though I'm seeing a lot of people look at this card and be like, why are you getting a downside on a card that is already giving you negative power? And that is because this fits into the Annihilus archetype. So Annihilus is a card that's going to be dropping next month in November. He's a 5/8 that basically gives over all your cards that have 0 or less power to your opponent. And this card seems absolutely perfect for a deck archetype like that. You can also use it with Green Goblin or Hobgoblin to make those more powerful when you send them to the opponent, while also inflicting negative power on one of their own cards. So definitely seems like it could be very strong in a junk archetype, and particularly once Annihilus is released, as there are only a handful of cards that actually work super well with the Annihilus effect, and Celine gives you a card that kind of boosts a lot of those cards while also giving you another piece of garbage to send over with Annihilus. Personally, one play I'm looking forward to, though it is pretty niche and will have a very specific setup, is using Celine on an Electro if he's the lowest power card in your hand to make it -1 power. This will also ramp you +1 energy. Then you can slam Annihilus on turn 4, and you will donate Celine as well as the Electro, so limiting your opponent to 1 card per turn, while also giving them at least 2 -1 power cards. So that seems really fun. And obviously could use this with Havoc potentially to make Havoc have negative power and then gift it to your opponent with Viper or Annihilus. So kind of a neat idea there. Worth noting, it is an end of turn trigger on Havoc, so if you give it over to an opponent, they will actually get hit by the effect at the end of that turn. So Celine, I think, makes Havoc a little better than it would be otherwise, but I still think it is probably way too bad of a card to actually play. Celine looks very promising in that specific archetype. I think she will have some pretty good value there, but I don't imagine her seeing a ton of play elsewhere. Then we have Firestar. Firestar is another card that I think has a bit of potential, but we'll have to see the context of the game as it comes out. She is a 6-cost 3 power that reads on reveal, each card you played last turn gains this card's power. So kind of like Forge in a way, where you're going to be giving a +3 boost, but instead of playing the card first and then buffing up a card, everything you played on the prior turn gets that +3 buff. And as we've seen with Forge, a +3 buff can be rather strong. 3 is a lot of power. Hell, we've seen it with Elsa. +3 is a big number, and especially so when you're going to be able to apply that to a lot of other cards. However, a 6/3 is a pretty big tempo loss, so you kind of need that big power to make up for this. This is a card that I think will eventually be strong, and especially so if it gets tweaked a bit further before release. And one deck that I think this could be a lot of fun in is Mr. Negative, where you flop this to a 3-cost 6 power that gives +6 to everything. Negative doesn't have any problem playing its cards a lot of the time earlier on, so you could dump out a bunch of cheap or free stuff on turn 5 and then close out with a Firestar on turn 6. Seems like a pretty fun application of the card. Other than that, I'm not sure where else it's going to see too much play. Maybe in a Hitmonkey Mysterio deck, since that does, play 4 cards. It's 12 power off the Firestar, pretty good. So maybe an alternate closing option there. And then the last card of the month of December is Blob. Blob is a 6-cost 3 power that reads on reveal, merge your deck into this and gain its total power. Ongoing, cannot be moved. Very interesting card here. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be good or not. It's kind of a card that I think is pretty hard to evaluate. I think this is a card you don't want to be a super meta player, though, as it's obviously very RNG intensive of what you're going to have remaining in the deck when you play it. I think the initial home for this will probably be in some ramp style deck, because ramp decks usually use America Chavez to guarantee that you're going to be able to find your ramp pieces earlier. And if you can cheat out Blob on turn 5, you're going to have America Chavez in the deck most of the time. So just Chavez on her own is going to get you a 9 power boost to this card, becomes a 6/12, and any other cards you get in the deck will make it bigger. However, you will eat your whole deck, so you won't be able to draw any more cards for the final turn. But usually ramp decks aren't playing that Chavez most of the time anyway. They usually have another 6-drop in hand. So I think if there is any deck this card finds a home in, it will probably be a ramp deck, and use something like Zola to make another copy of it once it's really big. Outside of that, I don't see a whole ton of application for this card. Maybe as a Hail Mary in a Shuri type deck, where if your Red Skull is still in the deck and you need a big way to finish, this is an option, but not too sure how reliable that will end up being. And then to close it out, I did just want to give people a brief overview of what we are currently looking at with the Spotlight caches for the months of November and December, so people can plan ahead accordingly. As always, things could change with the series these new cards are releasing at in December, but I expect the series to stay the same for the cards in October, as they usually don't change a whole ton a month before release. We can see November 7th contains Alioth, Null, and Negasonic. November 14th contains Gladiator, Mirage, and Loki. November 21st contains Annihilus, Dakin, and X-23. and November 28th contains Martyr, Jean Grey, and Spider-Man 2099. And then December, we have Blob, Stegron, and Jeff for the 5th, Firestar, Man-Thing, and Ravonna for the 12th, Havoc, Nico, and Legion for the 19th, and Celine, Lady Deathstrike, and Black Knight for the 26th. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check out this chart so you can plan ahead and figure out which cards are most appealing to you and when you want to save and open your Spotlight caches. Also be doing a bit of a detailed breakdown for the month of October, kind of what my plans are for the October pass, and talking a little bit about what I'm going to be planning to do for the November one too, in terms of opening Spotlights. Overall, I think the December cards are a bit underwhelming compared to the cards we have seen in the last few months, but I think that's just something that's going to happen sometimes. You know, not every month needs to be an absolute banger of cards that completely flip the game on its head. That's honestly just not very sustainable. And we've seen in the past that if some cards don't really release to a power level that the developers are happy with, they don't have a problem buffing them up to try and make them a bit more appealing. So time will tell what happens with these cards. Again, they could change entirely between now and next month's patch, so who knows, but this gives us a little bit of an idea of what we can expect for the future, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what things people come up with when these cards release in December. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think some are underrated, overrated? I'd love to hear it. That's going to wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.